All right, thanks for being here. My name is Senait Brown, and I'm a community organizer. I'm an anti-racist organizer. I'm a political organizer. First and foremost, I'm a Black woman living here in our community. And so I'm proud to be here with you all and to build with you tonight.
My name is Saroeum. I'm happy to be here. I'm actually from Boston. So just folks know, I have to stretch the word Boston because people keep reminding me that. I've been in and out of Seattle for about 3 years now, doing a lot of work related to Peacemaking Circle. Really, how do we come together as a community to have hard conversation and to work things out together so we can become a community. And peacemaking really is about inclusion, and how do we include people and create the community bigger and bigger so that the solution that comes out from that is the solution that we'll all abide by it or live by or embrace it. So thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So first thing I can think of is I'm really glad we're here. I always say we have arrived, right? Because we're here in this space together and it's purposeful. The reason why we're here in this space together is because we stood on shoulders in order to get to this place. The reason why we're here tonight is because we have fought that fight on each of the systems that have hurt our families and our communities. And we have fought to equally as hard to be resilient and to build the strength of our community. And tonight is really a culmination of all of that energy, right? So even though we have to still push when our communities and our businesses are being gentrified out of Seattle, like we're fighting right now with the hookah lounges, even when we have to fight our school system to make sure that our children are represented, getting that quality education, getting a culturally relevant education, and not being pushed out because of school discipline practices, we're still here and we're still building something that is that we own, that can make sure that our kids will be safe for the future. So even with all the tension and all the places that we have to fight, it's equally important to invest in ourselves, right? Because just as hard as we fight, we all have jobs, we all have experience, we all have personal attributes that we bring into our community. And so what we really want to do here tonight is think about how do we use all of those skills, how do we use all of that energy to restore justice into here in Seattle, into Rainier Beach. How do we use that energy? And so I want to welcome you here tonight for a first part of what has really been a longer plan. We're here tonight to talk about restorative justice and how it can function in our communities based upon our values. And this is not something that's a one-off, right? We have been building towards this. A lot of folks in the room are from YUIR and EPIC, and in this community who have been fighting against a youth jail here in Seattle. How many of y'all have heard about the youth jail? Oh, I need claps, not hand raises. How many of y'all have heard $210 million is slated to be spent from our property tax dollars to build a youth jail here in Seattle, in King County? Yes? Right? And how many of y'all have heard about the resistance that our young people have, in the stance they've been taking, saying that it's not acceptable that our school system is pushing us into the juvenile justice system, that it's not acceptable that we are going to be living with police brutality, that we no longer will stand for that. We have brilliant, amazing young people and the folks that, the shoulders on which we stand, that got us here tonight to talk about what is it in our community that we're going to build to ensure that our kids are not going into those systems, that we cut that cradle to prison pipeline off at the root, and that we do it using our own expertise, our own resources, our critical thinking, and all of the things that we have in this room today, right?
No, thank everybody for coming out today. Like, it's really beautiful to see all of you out there. We started a little bit late, so I'm not going to take a lot of your time up here. You know, I'm happy to be here. It's a beautiful day. I wanted to talk a little bit about who or what the Rainier Beach Restorative Justice Project is, or how it came to be, why we're here today talking about bringing Rainier, restorative justice to Rainier Beach. Basically, Rainier Beach Restorative Justice Project is a coalition of people who care about the community, individuals, community groups, youth organizations, working together to reimagine the juvenile justice system and try to make it something that really builds the healthy and thriving communities that we all deserve to live in. We're here today, or Rainier Beach Restorative Justice came to be, because there was a group of people who sat down to talk about what's going on in the community, was a lot of people who was doing work in different ways, talking about how we can work together and really make change in the community, changing some of the realities that families are suffering from that they shouldn't have to, right? And the criminal justice system, the juvenile justice system, it breaks down a lot of people, it breaks down a lot of families. It doesn't have the positive impact on our futures that we feel should be, right? So we came together because we believe there's a way to do it better. We believe it doesn't have to be like this, and we've seen some models or some things that are working here in King County and beyond, and want to see how we can bring that together, put our minds together, make something that works, make something that lasts. So I'm glad that you're here today. Two organizations that really put in a lot of work to making today happen is Rainier Beach Action Coalition and EPIC, Ending the Prison Industrial Complex. I want to thank them. I'm so honored to know or be a part of groups like that. And I want to ask Ariel and Baana to come forward and talk a little bit about who Ending the Prison Industrial Complex is, where they come from, what's the work we do, why we are. Thank you.
Thank you, James. I'm Ariel,
I'm Baana.
and as James said, we're part of Ending the Prison Industrial Complex, or EPIC. And EPIC is a collective of multiracial, intergenerational organizers who understand that the criminal justice system has a history of criminalizing and policing our communities in a way that is not healthy and in a way that we don't deserve. And so we're a group of organizers who has taken a stand against the building of this $210 million youth jail, but also understands that this problem is not just about the criminal justice system, it's about the housing system, it's about the education system, it's about our healthcare systems, and the abusive relationship they have with communities of color. And so we've been invested in figuring out how do we transform these systems by coming together as a community. How do we lift up the voices of those who are most impacted? So centering youth of color and youth organizers and bringing community together to stand up and say that we're not going to allow this to happen. We're not going to stand for Seattle to have a $210 million jail when there are youth of color who are being abused in our justice system, in our education system. And so that is just one aspect of the work we do. And so this project is really a part of our people's plan, understanding that at the same time as we're moving against the building of this jail, we also have to be building something for our youth. We also have to be coming together to use our resources and our skills and our gifts to support each other. And so that's really, I think, what we stand for. Well said. I don't know who's next.
And right now we're going to bring Brother Jerell and Sister Dar up to talk a little bit about urban impact.
So we're going to tell you a little bit about the project that Urban Impact is putting on. It's called Freedom Schools. Once again, my name is Jerell Davis.
And I'm Jarozyl Touch.
And this past summer, we served as servant leader educators in Urban Impact's Freedom School program. I was at Rainier Beach.
And I was at the Rainier Avenue church site, and I taught elementary school kids ages 5 to 9.
So, Jarozyl, how did it come about that the Children's Defense Fund and Urban Impact came together to bring Freedom Schools to the South End?
Well, first of all, we have to thank Miss Andrea Chicas over there. Can everyone please give a round of applause? Because she fought tirelessly to bring Children's Defense Fund Freedom Schools here to Seattle and in Washington State in general, because without her, we would not have it here. She opened the very first Freedom School site last year, and this year, in conjunction with Miss Laura Wright, they were able to open the Rainier Beach High School site. And so that is only 2 sites here in Washington State.
So when people ask us about what we did this summer, and we tell them that we work with Freedom Schools, oftentimes we have to explain why it's not just a regular summer program. It's a 6-week intensive program. And so, Jarozyl, how is Freedom Schools different than any other summer program?
Well, first of all, Freedom Schools is not your average program, okay? So the reason why this program matters is because it encourages scholars to go beyond what they were socially conditioned to think and behave like in school. So instead of being punitively punished in classrooms, we encourage them to think critically, we encourage them to bridge their own histories into the classroom, and so they are able to read the literature that we teach them and see themselves reflected in that literature, which is very important because we don't see that in regular schools.
And that sounds very transformative. Does that sound transformative, y'all? So how does that relate to the topic of restorative justice as we're talking about it right now?
So the Freedom Schools model is a high-impact, literacy-based program that is centered on multicultural awareness and self-empowerment. So the integrated reading curriculum, which has books that are intentionally picked for scholars to see how they relate to themselves. So our theme is I Can Make a Difference. Now, over the 6 weeks, we have 6 weekly themes, and scholars read books and discuss these books and learn how they can make a difference in themselves, in their family, in their community, in their country, in their world, with hope, education, and action. And so these scholars walk away transformed, believing that they really can make a difference, even if they are 5 years old.
And so one of the things that we do every single day in Freedom Schools, we participate in this activity that is representative of solidarity, and it's called Harambee. What does Harambee mean?
Harambee is the key Swahili word for let's pull together.
And what we do during Harambee is we do a number of songs, also a number of cheers and chants. Is that right?
Yes. So we start off our morning with the motivational song by Labi Sifre, and that song preps our scholars up for the day. And in this song, they realize that they have something inside so strong that they can bring out to the world. And it is really just a time where we pump everyone up to believe in each other and see that we can make a difference as a collective.
And you guys should see how transformative this actually really is. And so we're going to do an example of what we do in our Harambee. So if you are able right now, please raise your right fist in the sky and repeat after me. It is our duty to fight for our freedom. It is our duty to win. We must love each other and protect each other. We have nothing to lose but our chains. All right, keep that fist in the eye. We want to make it, we want to say it like we believe it, all right? Because we tell these scholars this every single day, and we want them to believe it. So when we're doing this as a community, this is representative of how we want our scholars and our young people to believe in themselves. So we're going to do this one more time. It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to fight for our freedom.
It is our duty to win.
It is our duty to win.
We must love each other.
We must love each other.
And protect each other.
Protect each other.
We have nothing to lose.
We have nothing to lose
But our chains.
but our chains.
Ashe.
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 Thank you. Next, I would like to introduce Angola Dixon and Afam Ayika. And when you think of the word restorative justice, you probably see these two people everywhere in the community. It's very famous in working with young people in community and various organizations. And so they're both going to come up here and really sharing their experience as much as their wisdom and knowledge about restorative justice. Where does it come from, the historic, and the application that could be applied in community, in organization with young people and so on. Please help me welcome Angola and Afam. Thank you.
I stand on the shoulders of my wonderful family, my uncles and my grandmother and great-grandmother. I come from a very strong family, the Dixon family. One of my uncles is sitting over here. You might want to speak to him if you get a chance, Michael. I also give a shout out to Aaron and Elmer from the Seattle Black Panther Party. I'm here to talk about restorative justice. So I started doing healing circles with Saroeum, actually. My first healing circle was with the Mentoring Cares movement, and they did an African tradition of passing the stone at Mount Zion Baptist Church just to get people talking. And then I participated in a healing circle, which is the Takish Tlingit tradition that Saroeum taught all of us, and this was for professionals of color who work on racial justice issues, and that was a powerful 3-day circle. So when you speak of restorative justice, you're basically talking about any process that is the opposite of what we have now, which is a punitive justice. And there's a handout that looks like this that says, what is restorative justice? If you didn't get one, please pick one up, which basically says restorative justice enables victims to meet or communicate with their offender to explain the real impact of crime. This is part of a wider field called restorative practice. And I want to clarify, there are several organizations that have started with the name restorative justice in them, but the peacemaking circle process is a different process. It handles more the root cause of any dispute or crime that may happen and serves to heal the harm and restore relationships through storytelling and sitting with each other, which is obviously an ancient practice from Africa and South America and North America. And so his tradition comes from Canada, Yukon, the Takish Tlingit tribe. The Chief Seattle was also known to sit in circle to handle debate. So this is something that's been ancient and has now been mixed with modern skills to bring about restorative justice that can be used in the courts and in schools. Just a little history. Restorative justice practices have extensive roots in countries throughout the world. Among Native North Americans, circle processes have been used for centuries as a form of community justice. Similarly, in New Zealand and Australia, restorative circles have been used by Aboriginal communities to resolve offenses and conflicts. And following the end of apartheid, South Africa's Truth and Reconciliation Commission heard over 10,000 cases in which violent offenders sought amnesty in exchange for complete disclosure and accountability, performing restitution and apologizing for their acts. As of the late 1990s, there were over 24 restorative justice programs operating in Canada, nearly 300 in Germany, and 130 in Finland. During the 1990s, restorative justice spread throughout the United States, more notably in Boston and Massachusetts and in Oakland. They've had a great program for the school system. Most restorative justice programs utilize facilitated conferences to enable offenders, victims, and community members to meet face-to-face in order to discuss the offense and determine how to best repair the harm. When offenders hear their victims describe the effect of the offense had on them, they often feel empathy and express more remorse. In order to repair the harm arising from the wrongful act, offenders are asked to perform reparative acts. Restorative justice conferences result in high levels of satisfaction among offenders, victims, and community members. The participants report being gratified that they were heard, that their needs were met, and that the results were just. They also felt secure during the process, and these results show significant advantages compared to the punitive process that we have in this country currently. A little bit more about that. In the United States, the criminal justice system is coming off of a 30-year era of get tough policies that have bred high rates of recidivism, a focus on punishing long breakers rather than attending to the harm experienced by crime victims, and an ever-increasing expenditure that exceeds amounts spent on education and health in some state budgets. Under the current system, over 6.7 million adults, or 3.1% of the adult population in this country, is behind bars, on probation or on parole. Research shows that incarceration, instead of curbing crime, makes nonviolent offenders into violent criminals and is a revolving door in and out of prison. So restorative justice is the way to end that, and it's a completely different way to look at justice, not only in our schools, but in our courts. And that's what we've been working hard to do. We actually have a pilot right now with Seattle Restorative Justice Nonprofit Organization, and we're getting 10 test cases from the city attorney. We're very excited about that, ages 18 through 24 to start out. And when this is a success and they see how well the community responds to it, we're hoping that it will expand to the entire Washington State Department of Corrections, and we can model other programs throughout the country that have been successful, and in the Yukon and in the work that Saroeum has done in Boston. So I'll give it to Afam to give a personal story.
All right, thank you everybody for coming this evening. I know a lot of people in the audience, and I really appreciate you taking your time to be here. What we're talking about is really, really important because we're talking about the radical reconstruction of and the rebuilding of a new community underneath the community that's been stepping on most of our necks for most of our lives. I'm just going to go really quickly into a few of the principles so we can look at how, and this will be reinforced a little bit later. Our current punitive model that we all live under in education and in incarceration asks 3 questions. What law was broken? Who broke the law? And how can and do we need to punish the person who broke that law? Instead, we like to ask questions like who's harmed? Who in the neighborhood has been affected? When you commit a crime, you don't just hurt yourself. You hurt your neighbor, your grandmother. You hurt the person at the corner. You hurt their kids. It's every time a crime is committed, it extends out and it causes pain and suffering for many, many, many people. In order to really, really repair it, we have to repair all the pain and suffering felt by all the people in the situation. What this does is, you can't have satisfaction when you put somebody through a punitive process. Your only satisfaction is locking them up. And how that feels like satisfaction to anybody, it doesn't feel that way to me. When people go through a restorative process, it seems like both sides get something out of it. The person who's had the harm done to them, they get the right to say their voice, to get that out. They don't have to carry the anger with them. Whoever else was impacted gets the opportunity to speak on their truth as to what happened to them. Also, we can clear up a lot of, through communication, a lot of the lies that different sides of each other, groups tell each other. I know we're going with something very similar to that right now. With a lot of my brothers in the back with the hookah lounge. We subject ourselves to division. We make ourselves weak because we as a people, we don't know each other. We're not connected to one another. We're missing it. I'm, full disclosure, I'm from a small village in Africa, in Nigeria, called Agoleze. I go out in this world every day seeking connection. Those of you who know me know that that's all I care about, is connecting and loving other people. So just really quickly, what we want to do is we want to repair harm. We don't want to punish people. We want to bring the community together to do so. When a crime is committed or a kid is in trouble at school and everybody gets together and they make a solution that everybody can really ride with, then it will work. It will last. It's the difference between having a program and shifting the cultural way that we deal with one another. Thank you. So I came into restorative justice in a couple of ways. A straight model, and I was also trained in peacemaking by Saroeum. I think everybody, can we please give Saroeum a hand of applause? He's put a lot of work in, guys. He's put in years and years and years of work to bring this to us. And he's my mentor, Angola's mentor, and I'm sure a few other people in the audience. I'm just going to explain a little bit about the peacemaking process, just a few items that are in it. The first thing is the circle. The circle itself creates equality. There's no up and down. It's all around. The circle itself allows you to look at everybody who they're talking, to pay attention to everybody that they're talking. The second piece is what's called the talking piece. In Takish Tlingit, we use a feather. But what the talking piece does is it allows you to be heard. It gives you that power in the moment. The person with the talking piece can call a bathroom break. They can make a rule change. They can do whatever they want. They can speak for 45 minutes. I can have a man across the room from me say the most racist, inflammatory thing in the world, and I want to jump him. I want to do the old thing. I want to run at him. I want to confront him. But by the time it gets around to me, and it's my turn to talk, because in America and a lot of places, we have a hard time just talking. I'll have nothing to say, because all the people have already addressed him with love and caring before he got to me. And by the time we get back around to him, he's ready to become an anti-racist, vigilante, like for real. He's like, let me go read a book. So that's what we do. We take a process that destroys us, that corrupts us, that divides us, and we make a process that builds us together, that ties us together. A cop can't shoot me if he loves me. He won't do it. He won't do it. But if he doesn't know me, he will just shoot me. I had a policeman tell me one time, I can't tell a Somali kid with a gun without a Somali kid, with a Somali kid from a Somali kid without a gun. You know what I mean? So the reason why he doesn't know that, because he doesn't know the Somali culture. You know what I mean? He doesn't know what's really going on. So another really great piece about it is that we set guidelines. So whenever we go into a restorative practice, we set a set of rules that we all have to live and abide for. This allows us to work on issues like gang-on-gang violence. Everybody's safe in that space. You don't have to talk if you don't want to. And everything is confidential. So the greatest thing about restorative justice for me as a native Nigerian is that I believe it can fix the schism between the North and the South, between the Yoruba, the Hausa, the Fulani, and the Igbo. I believe it can fix the schism between Muslim and Christian. I believe it can fix the schism between white and black. I believe we can use it to address in a peaceful, loving way these institutions that are destroying us, that are shooting us, and don't really care about us. The only way you can get somebody to do something for you is to love them and to have them love you back, and that's it. If you don't do that, it's always going to be more of the same. It's going to be more policies. We're going to swing. Things are going to get better. Things are going to get worse. Things are going to get better. Things are going to get worse. Things are going to get better. We got to rebuild it all. We got to rebuild it all. So that's about it, you know.
We're going to let Domonique talk about some of the work that he's doing right now in King County to keep young people out of jail. You know, sometimes when I come to meetings about how we can make the world a better place, how we can change things, how we can do so much, it seems like it's a long way off. You know, it seems like a pie in the sky. And so I want to make sure people who are here today know that some of the good work is being done. Like there are some things being done that are keeping people out of jail and giving them a better direction and healing them. Some of that work is being done. We need to build on that. We need to expand it out so we're working with more kids and we're working with them longer. Because that's how we can really make a mistake. That's how we can make a solution. We can fix some of the mistakes. We can grow together. Thank you, Domonique.
Our program is ran out of this building right here. When they told me about this breaking the cycles meeting we were going to have, I got really excited. And I was hoping this would be the kind of turnout. I mean, look around, look at the numbers, and look at the races, the mixture of people in this room. This is exactly what it's going to take to make the change that we're looking for. Everybody has to be part of it. Everybody has to be part of it. The 180 program is a program that's in partnership with the Prosecuting Attorney's Office. Our program's main goal is to keep kids out of the justice system, period. Yeah? We're in partnership with the Prosecuting Attorney's Office, and they work with us to keep kids out of jail, out of court, off of probation, no parole. So when I just said it takes everybody, we are doing that with the government entity of the Prosecuting Attorney's Office and a community entity, the 180 program. We're in partnership working together, and that's what it takes to get the goals that we're looking for. So what we do is when a kid or a youth commits a crime, depending on whether the criteria of the crime or the criteria of the kid's record qualifies to come into the 180 program, Prosecuting Attorney's Office sends those kids to us. They come to our workshop. In completion of our workshops, we get that crime dismissed. It never gets filed on, it never goes on that kid's record. In our workshop, we have people from the community that come from the same community that those kids live in, that have been through the criminal justice system before there was any kind of program like this that existed, so we didn't get that opportunity. And we got those records, and we went to jail, and we went to prison. Well, those same people that turned their lives around come back now and talk to those kids about their experiences that they had and that they went through. So making sure that these kids don't have to follow suit, and we don't have to keep regurgitating this same criminal mindset that we've been programmed to have. When these kids get connected to what we call our community ambassadors, the community ambassadors plug these kids into services and give them resources, drug rehab, counseling, job training, job placement, back into school, accelerated school programs, whatever we need to make sure that this kid stays on the right track. So far, we've had over 2,000 kids come through our program that don't have a criminal record or have a criminal charge on their record right now. That's powerful. So I'm going to shift gears a little bit because I don't have a lot of time, so put on your seatbelt. There's a lot of killing going on in these streets right now. Our kids are killing each other, right? 180 is already doing something about the kids that are standing on the ledge looking over that hasn't jumped yet. But now we're shifting a little bit of our focus in a little bit of a different direction to deal with these people that are in the mess right now. These young men and these young women that are out here doing the damage in these streets that don't understand and don't have the opportunity to go to the kind of programs or get to take advantage of the kind of things that we put in place for the kids that haven't already crossed that line. When I say it takes everybody, it's going to take the King County Council members, the Seattle City Council members. It's going to take the judges and the lawyers. It's going to take white people, black people, Asian. It's going to take everybody to come together. All the social service networks, all the church and faith-based organizations. We got to bring us all together. And we got to build our own village. They say it takes a village, but we don't have a village no more, and it's time to build it. And so that's what we got to focus on. Building a village that's going to save our kids. Our kids are dying every day. I'm watching it, I'm seeing it, and it's making me sick. We need to get sick, and we need to get tired. Sitting around having meetings all the time ain't going to fix nothing. We have to take action. We have to get into our streets, and we have to go do something. And we have to get organized. But we also have to have something to offer. So right now, we're on a campaign to come up with 10,000 jobs. We want 10,000 jobs to give to these youth. People with felonies, people with criminal backgrounds, people that are doing things that now they can't get jobs for. We want to give them some hope. The same thing that these kids are out here going to these gangs, they did study after study after study shows fatherlessness, no love, no hope, all these different things that the kids are attracted to the gangs with. Well, then let's reverse that and use that. Give them some fathers, give them some hope, give them some love, and embrace these gang members. We can't demonize them. We can't demonize them. We can't give them stiffer penalties. We can't do none of that. We got to love and embrace our young people. That's what we got to do. These people that are out here need love. If they see a group of men come up to them and tell them, we love you, bro. We're here for you. We want to take care of you. That's what we do on our 180 workshop. We tell the kids we love them. We're here for them. This is your community. We want to embrace you. We want to love you. We want to help you. We want to guide you. We want to nurture you. And we want to give you a path for your future. Lean on us. And it works. 180 works. That's why we're successful. We just won the Light a Fire Award for the #1 new nonprofit in Seattle, Washington. The 180 program just did for Metropolitan Magazine. Now, I say that to say, not to give us a bunch of kudos. I didn't expect a hand clap. I said that to say, we did that from loving our community and loving our children. Now, let's go out here and love these gang members. Let's embrace these OGs that can call the shots. Let's embrace these young people that are carrying these guns with their pants hanging off their butt and go and not tell them, pull up your pants, boy. No, go and say, I love you, bro. Don't look at them and be scared of them and turn around and walk away because they're coming down the same street. No, walk up to them and tell them, I love you. But let's have something to offer them. Let's have something to pull them to us. Thank you.
Yes. So before we get into our last clip and our last example of how restorative justice has worked in our communities, I just want to point out a few things. Everything this brother just said around not just creating something to divert our kids from a system that's never held them up, but also about building something in our community. I want us to stay there for a minute, because I know that it can get into how do we stop it, how do we stop it, how do we stop it, right? But we really want to talk about the root cause of why we're seeing what we're seeing with our youth. That's going to come back to what we do in our community. And I want to lift up, I know we talked about Children Defense Fund, but I want to lift up the the Tyree Scott Freedom Schools, because I think that is another extreme example of young folks coming together and developing an analysis about what is really oppressing us. As we can, because you're absolutely right. What they'll tell us from the system is that we have broken families. What they'll tell us from the system is that our kids are broken. What they'll tell us from the system is that black lives never matter and black kids were never worth any sort of humanity. That's what that system will reinforce every time. So it's up to us as a community to build something and build that critical analysis and understand that every one of those same systems is telling us that is every one of the same systems that is creating the violence that we see in our community, that's creating the gentrification that we see in our community, that's pushing out black businesses from our community, that is keeping the health disparities that young people and young women are facing right now in our community. Those things create all of that. And it's up to us to create the paradigm shift, right? So as we think about this next clip that we're going to watch, which is from Our Joy, Restorative Justice for Oakland Youth, Domonique Davis, Angela Davis's sister, actually created this, and it's been adopted by their unified school district. Just think about the premise behind that was that if the school system never said anything to us again, we were taking our kids back. If the criminal justice system continued to try to roll forward, we are taking our kids back. And that the folks that have been on the streets, the folks that have been in the system, who understands that system better, who better to lead that effort, and who better for us to get behind, right? So just want to lift up those pieces that all of these powerful speakers spoke to, is that it's going to take us as a community to be able to influence any of those systems and stop any of that cradle to prison pipeline. But our center has to be our community.
We don't have a lot of time. I really want us to get to breakout groups. We're like 15 minutes behind. So let's bring that to the end. Let's bring that to the end. Can the facilitators for the breakout groups come down to the front? We're going to do some breakout groups. We want to hear what people thought. I want to hear people's ideas for how we're going to bring the restorative justice that works for us to our communities. Talking to a lot of people who have come to here today. Talking to a lot of people who have come here today. I talked to a lot of people who are really interested in seeing restorative practices in our school systems and seeing alternatives to detention and suspensions and a lot of things that happen like that. So if you're interested in figuring out restorative justice for the education system here in the South End, please come to the middle. Some people are interested in alternatives to the criminal justice system or the juvenile justice system. If you're interested in finding ways to use restorative justice and restorative practices to create a new way in the juvenile justice system, please come to this side. And some people I've talked to a lot about how we can have conflict resolution, how we can solve the problems in the community without involving the police, without involving the courts. Like, how can we deal with our stuff or the problems we have with each other just with us, not bringing somebody in who makes everything so much harder. So if you're interested in conflict resolution, how restorative justice can be used in our streets and in our communities so we can solve our stuff ourselves, please come to this side. And we'll give a few minutes for people to move around. Thank you.